Thank you for joining our CPT overview. In this presentation, we will discuss what is CPT for F1 students, the different types of CPT at USF, how you might qualify, and how to apply. So what is CPT? CPT is a type of off-campus work authorization. So F1 students who want to engage in something like an internship or a practicum in their field that is integral to their curriculum must first obtain work authorization. You'll find here the actual CPT regulation. This is the actual federal regulation indicating that the CPT must be for an experience that is integral to the established curriculum. It defines it as alternate work study, internship, cooperative education, or any other type of required internship or practicum that is offered by sponsoring employers through cooperative agreements with the school. So is it just a job? No, it is a training. So the experience must be academic in nature, directly related to the field of study. It's integral to your degree program and is appropriate for the education level. Do I need CPT for unpaid experiences? Yes. If the internship or training experience is unpaid, it is still considered employment by the U.S. government. Therefore, you must have work authorization before you can begin the experience. What about volunteering? So volunteering can be tricky. Volunteering does not simply mean the experience is unpaid. As I mentioned, many internships are unpaid and yet are viewed as employment by the U.S. Department of Labor. The safest examples of true volunteer work are things that are humanitarian in nature. So something like building houses for Habitat for Humanity or being a candy striper at the hospital would be a true volunteer position. We've provided a link here to the Department of Labor's 7-factor volunteer test to assist you in determining whether an experience is true volunteer. But given the difficulty and the ambiguity of this test, the safest rule for international students should be that if you are providing a beneficial service to an employer, whether it's paid or unpaid, you should be obtaining proper work authorization. So what is the purpose of CPT? It's to allow F1 students to get the experience that is so beneficial to them in their field. That is why so many curriculums have established an internship component. This is helpful in preparing you for your future career. So CPT is the work authorization needed so that you can engage in these experiences. So who is eligible for CPT? Well, you must be in F1's active status, first of all, in a degree-seeking program, have an active I-20, as I mentioned, have a valid passport, and you must have already completed 1 year of full-time enrollment in your degree-seeking program. So what time is not counted toward the academic year requirement that I just mentioned? We want to clarify that there is some enrollment that does not count towards this 1 year. Okay, so time spent in, for example, an English language bridge program, such as Into, does not count towards this requirement for CPT. Those programs are not degree seeking. Also, remember, in the summer, that term is much shorter. So it is not enough time to count as a second semester towards your 1 year. For the 1 year full-time enrollment requirement, you must have completed a fall and a spring. So a few other details to know about CPT. Remember that CPT is curricular practical training. So the training is tied to your curriculum and so should occur between the regular dates of a particular semester. Your internship start date and end date may not always fall on exactly the first or last date of the semester, but it should definitely occur within the semester. Also, because CPT authorization is granted so that you can do the work that is integral to your program of study, CPT is limited to the requirements of your particular program of study. So CPT is going to be different for different students. And then another note is CPT can be granted in either part-time CPT, which is 20 hours or less of work per week, or full-time CPT, which is over 20 hours of work per week. So enrollment during full-time CPT. As you know, as an F1 student, you need to be enrolled full-time during the fall and spring semesters. If you are authorized for a full-time CPT that is 12 or more weeks in length, it is possible that you may not need to enroll for a full amount of credits for that particular semester. The reason we say it's possible is because you still need to be making normal progress towards your degree. So there is the rare case where your academic advisor or your program requires that you still enroll full-time in that semester in addition to your full-time CPT. Now, if your full-time CPT is less than 12 weeks in length, you must be also full-time enrolled. During the summer, it's a little bit different. Summer is typically your annual vacation, and so a lot of you do not need to enroll, and immigration does not require that you enroll over the summer. So in these cases, regardless of whether you are full-time or part-time CPT, you only, for immigration purposes, need to be enrolled in that internship course. And then enrollment during part-time CPT. During the fall and spring, you must be also enrolled in a full course of study in that fall or spring semester. But if you are doing your part-time CPT in the summer, for immigration purposes, you only need to be enrolled in that internship class. So this slide is just a reminder of what your enrollment, your full-time enrollment requirements are. As an undergraduate student, you are required to enroll in a minimum of 12 credit hours for the fall and spring each. As a graduate student, to be full-time, you must be registered for 9 credit hours in the semester. And then there is the case where some of you might have what's called a reduced course load, usually in your final semesters where a lot of our students have that. And if you are authorized for a reduced course load, you are considered to be at full-time equivalency. So a few limitations to the CPT to keep in mind. If a student uses 12 or more months of full-time CPT, you will no longer be eligible for OPT, or optional practical training, at that degree level. Also keep in mind that, as we mentioned before, CPT authorization is authorized for your program needs. So your academic department may have set restrictions on the amount of CPT that you may use. So now we're going to consider the different types of CPT at USF. The first type of CPT is when the experience is necessary for a course. So this is when the internship or field experience is a required component of a course in your major as specified by the official course description. Remember, the course must be specifically designed to award credit. So it's not just that the experience is related to your major or related to the course. The course itself must require the experience. So these would be your courses that are specifically titled internship, usually, specifically titled field experience or practicum. Courses such as independent study and research, directed research, do not qualify you for CPT because not all of those call for such an experience. The second type of CPT is through career services. It is an experience facilitated through USF Career Services. And this type requires prior approval. So you would work with USF Career Services on this, get the experience approved. and also register for their internship or co-op course before you come and apply for CPT with the Office of International Services. The third type is for graduate students who are already in thesis or dissertation, who are registered for thesis or dissertation, and have an experience that is essential for the development of their master's or PhD. For students in this case, this option is only available after you have completed all coursework. As I already mentioned, you also must be registered specifically for thesis or dissertation, not directed research, but thesis or dissertation credits. And the experience must be cited in your thesis or dissertation. So what if the experience that you have been offered does not fit any of these four types that we've discussed? In most cases, it will, but in a rare case, it might not. And in such a scenario, you might consider using OPT before graduating. Some things to consider if you find yourself in this situation where the CPT is not something that you are eligible for, and so you're considering OPT. Just note, most students do try to save their OPT because you get a limit of 12 months of OPT. So most students try to save it so that they can have those 12 months of work experience for after graduation. However, it is possible to use part of the OPT, say a few months, while you're in your program, and then later on apply for the remaining months after you graduate. One big difference in applying for OPT as opposed to CPT. CPT is authorized by a DSO in the Office of International Services, and the work authorization is noted on your I-20. So it's a much simpler and quicker process. OPT is a formal application with USCIS, with the US government. So it does take longer to get approval, and it does have an application fee. So on this slide, I've already sort of touched on some of these, but these are things to consider when deciding whether to do a work experience as a CPT work authorization versus an OPT work authorization. I won't go through the rest of them, but this is available to you online for you to review and consider. And if you do have any questions after reviewing this, then definitely come see us during advising hours. So how do you apply for CPT? You do this in iStart. You will submit the CPT application e-form that you'll find under F1 Practical Training Apply. The application is made up of several steps. You will complete a quiz that you need to complete, and then you will upload your offer letter for review by our office. And then once our office has reviewed the letter and determined that it is okay for you to continue, you will submit the final step, which is the CPT application. And this process, we tell students to allow for 15 business days for this to be processed, but generally the sooner you can apply, the better. Now, a job offer is required before you can apply for CPT. CPT is employer specific. And so when you obtain this letter, you need to make sure that the letter includes all of the details listed here. We do have a sample letter available in iStart that you can review. Sometimes employers find that helpful, but plenty of employers have their own offer letter, and it does not need to look exactly like our sample letter. We just provide that because some have requested it. But your letter does need to include all of the details listed here. So as far as the CPT application process, the final step in the CPT application where you fill out all the details of your employment, dates, employer address, employer name, supervisor, and things like that. You will also enter your academic advisor's information, name and email, because they will need to confirm how this is integral to your degree. So once they do that, and this is all electronic, we will be notified electronically, and then we will review it to determine if we can authorize the CPT. When you do this final step, you must already be registered in the internship or CPT appropriate class. And once it is approved, once our office approves it, we will update your Thesis record, issue a new I-20 that shows the CPT work authorization, and you will receive that new I-20 by email. So when can you begin working? Well, you must have this new I-20 that has the CPT work authorization on it. That new I-20 will have your employer name as well as the start and end date to your CPT. So you can work within that start and end date as shown on your I-20, and those dates fall in the semester in which you're taking the internship course. When you go to begin your employment, you must show proof of work eligibility to your employer. What you will show them is this new I-20 that you receive, which has the CPT authorization on page 2. And typically you will show that to your employer's human resources office. So a few frequently asked questions to consider. Can you do more than one job? So CPT is employer specific and it is meeting a course requirement. So you are limited to one employer per CPT authorization. Can you change your job if you find one that is better? No. Remember, this is a learning experience specific to the course you're taking. And when we authorize CPT, we are doing so based on what you and your department have confirmed is an approved experience for this course. Do you have to be in a credit-bearing class? Yes, you must be doing this for credit. What happens if you lose your position or have to leave it early? Again, these are formal authorizations in your Thesis record. So if a change, like a change of dates, need to be made, you will need to submit, hopefully, this is limited and you won't have to do this, but in the rare occasion that something happens, you will need to submit a new CPT application so that we can get the updated information from you and confirmation from your academic advisor that the change is fine. This concludes our CPT session. Please know that you can refer to all this information on our website on the CPT page. And if you have any questions for our advisors, you can see us during walk-in or virtual advising, which is available every weekday, Monday through Friday.